He's afraid this is going to become a thing, and then everybody's going to question him and be like, why haven't you been doing this all the time, and what's going on? And, there is nuance to this. It's not always just, oh, this is what every team does. So, yeah, it's an interesting conversation, Mike.
The first thing I always think of when something like that comes up that creates questions and controversy, were they authorized to talk about it on the air? Now, Buck and Aikman have been doing it for more than 20 years together. I'll assume that they were careful to be sure that it was something they were allowed to talk about. That's the kind of thing that can get you in hot water from a relationship standpoint with these individuals that you meet with on a regular basis, because they'll get pissed if their position is, that was off the record. That wasn't something that I authorized you to say that I said, right? But again, they've been doing it long enough. I suspect they've got the instincts to know when to say, can we use that? Can we say that? Which makes it even more significant. The mere fact that they were authorized to say it, if indeed they were, and I will assume they were, that tells you maybe LaFleur wanted it out there. Now, he didn't want to get too specific about details, but Chris, this fits with everything we've been saying all along. You've got a dramatic overhaul to your receiving corps. You've got a guy who's coming back, presumably intent on winning a Super Bowl. And where is he during the offseason program? He's in Peru or wherever doing ayahuasca. He's not with these young receivers. And I looked it up today. When the Packers won their only Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, Christian Watson was 11, Romeo Doubs was 10. He's their Franco Harris, for crying out loud. Right. They walk through the door, and they are working with, they are colleagues with, they are catching passes from one of their football gods, a member of the Pantheon. As they grew up and developed a love for football, this is the guy. And Aaron Rodgers is so smart. Well, I don't know how smart he really is, because if he was really smart, he'd recognize these guys are going to be freaked out by me. These guys are going to be intimidated by me. These guys are going to be pissing down their leg when they're talking to me for the first time.
Yes.
Because I'm Aaron Rodgers,
yes,
and they're not.
Right.
So I have to go out of my way to make them comfortable. And I'm passionate about it because I'm thinking what Franco Harris would have done, just based on how Franco Harris was.
Yeah.
I've got to go out of my way to make them feel like they belong, to make them feel like I am on an equal plane with them now.
Right.
They are playing with me. They deserve it. They've earned it. And I am going to embrace them. And I am going to work with them. And I am going to spend time with them. And I'm going to make sure that when training camp rolls around, they're not freaked out when I show up with my Arthur Shelby haircut. And here's this big, huge persona of Aaron Rodgers. What year did he show up in the Con Air getup? Was that last year or was that this year?
That was this year, early this year.
And they're all, it was start of the season. He had the Arthur Shelby. He showed up for training camp, looked like Nick Cage in Con Air. I mean, you're going to freak out if you haven't had a guy take the time to get to know you. And this is another example of that. Kind of aloof, standoffish, I don't want to be bothered, right?
Right.
I'm not watching film with these guys, and therefore they don't learn more about what I like. I don't learn more about what they like. It's no wonder.
No, you're right. Right.
And it's no wonder they're better now.
Right.
Better late than never, unless it was too late for them to get to the playoffs.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're right. And then in those meetings, what you do is you start to get comfortable with the person, right? So not only are you starting to realize professionally, but you're like, oh, hey, look, he cracked a joke. Okay, wait, he made fun of himself in the meeting. Oh, I'll throw it better next time. That was a crap throw. And then you start to break the ice, and you don't, feel so uncomfortable. It is a real thing, Mike. There's no doubt.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but late career Aaron Rodgers is in this weird state of mind, and he needs to hear hard truths from somebody. He doesn't hear it on McAfee's show, because yesterday they got into this article that Kalen Kaler of The Athletic meticulously crafted with on-the-record quotes from current teammates about this hand signal issue and how the receivers, they're freaked out by it. They're intimidated by Aaron Rodgers. It's Randall Cobb. It's Romeo Doubs. It's Sammy Watkins, who isn't a teammate anymore. I wonder if what he said in that article had anything to do with it. And from Jordan Love. It's all on the record. And Rodgers goes on with McAfee, and they shit all over it. Like it's fake news. It's on the record quotes from his own teammates. It's unbelievable. When you watch the clip of Rodgers, and McAfee says they're anonymous quotes. First of all, Pat, they're not. They're all on the record. They're all on the record. It's like we're in this two realities, red state, blue state. You say whatever you want. It doesn't matter if it's true. And here's the truth residing over here in plain sight, and nobody wants to bridge the gap between the two. That's where Rodgers is right now. So, Chris, this doesn't surprise me. He's allowed himself to believe he's larger than life. Like, I'm a little kid thinking Franco Harris is larger than life, and Franco Harris never viewed himself this way. Aaron Rodgers is a guy that all these people think is larger than life, and at some point in his brain over the past few years, he's begun to believe it. That's my assessment. I got nothing more to say, lest I get myself in any more trouble than I'm already.
No, well, I mean, you said it all right there. I mean, that's the one thing that, jumped out to me as far as seeing the article and then hearing it. I was like, wait, don't we have people that are saying this and they're saying that it's anonymous?
Every
BS?
source was on the record. Every source in that article is on the record. I had to go back and double check
because I was like, am I hearing things or did I not see something right? So that was shocking. It was. But like the aspect that you're bringing up is real. It is. I mean, my rookie year, gosh, it's very widely documented with my bumble in the play in the huddle. I mean, yeah, it's a real thing. Oh gosh, I'm in the huddle with Keyshawn Johnson and Keenan McCardell and Michael Pittman, and I was nervous.
And you got Warren Sapp waiting for you
exactly
on
that side of the ball
you're gonna hear from him.
But then as I got and grew and started to become. I mean, even in year 2, Joey Galloway's in the huddle now. Oh, I want him to like me. And you know what? Those guys, when they realize, wait, this kid's getting close to playing here, and he might actually be our quarterback, and even before that, they made themselves available to me as humans to go like, hey man, we see what you're doing out there. You're doing good, and bust my chops every now and then. Give me some confidence, or tell me something I need to change, or whatever. And we grew that way, and that there is something real to that. And yes, I think they were feeling the pressure for sure. They want to please. I mean, it's receivers who, like you talked about, I'm in the huddle with a legend, a guy I was watching as a little kid in the Super Bowl. I want him to love everything about me. So there is that pressure, and yeah, it's all a little shocking there. But I will say too, not every team does it like meets together as a unit. It does depend on your team a little bit. When I was on a playoff team with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we had Joey Galloway in the receiver room, and Ike Hilliard and some mature guys like that, we split up as an offensive unit. I didn't watch the game film with the offensive line, the tight ends, the receiver. We all separate ways. Gruden had told everybody what everybody needs to improve, and then we'd come together on a walkthrough after the film or whatever and fix some of the issues. Where I was on some other teams with Josh McDaniels, the New England way, guys learning a new offense and trying to do that. When I was in Denver, yeah, we met as a unit to make sure we get all on the same page. We talk about all the little details that we're all learning, as far. That can be annoying, and why teams don't do it, because then the receivers are sitting back there going, God damn, I got to listen to them tell the right guard and the right tackle what they should do on this run play. So that's why teams don't always do it either. It isn't always the most efficient way. That meeting could end up being like 4 hours long. So there are different ways to go about this. And obviously they were a little late to go about this the right way as far as this team and young receivers with a legendary quarterback.
I thought it was interesting what Troy Aikman had to say. Buck set it up by saying that it changed when they started watching tape of Wednesday and Thursday practices together as a group so they could talk, and Aaron could hear what Christian Watson is thinking and what Romeo Doubs is thinking. And not only that, but to get to know them as people, which maybe humanized Rodgers and took a little bit of the pressure off.
Right.
That's what I've been saying all along. You have to understand, this is not a superhero. This is not a god from the pantheon on high who has come down to be among the mere mortals. This is a regular guy like the rest of you. And the obligation is on Rodgers to create that relationship. But here's what Aikman said. When LaFleur said that, I was shocked they hadn't been meeting all along. I've been on both sides of it. I've had offensive coordinators who had it where you always met with your individual position coach and not as a group. I've had others where the whole offense, excluding linemen, met, and that worked best. I think that's the way to go, and my guess is LaFleur will do it that way for the rest of his time as a head coach. And we can say Aaron Rodgers is smart. Okay, I don't think there's any denying he's objectively smart.
Right.
But 10 years or so ago, it became mainstream to differentiate intelligence from emotional intelligence. And I remember after the Eagles fired Chip Kelly, Jeffrey Lurie was looking for emotional intelligence. You have to understand the humanity of the individuals you are working with, whether you're the coach, the quarterback, whoever. If you're in a position of leadership, you have to recognize that there are human emotional responses to the interactions.
Yeah.
And you have to factor that into how you deal with people and how you relate to people. And that's why I had been hammering all along on this idea that Aaron Rodgers should be present and available. Maybe he doesn't like it. It's voluntary. It's voluntary. You're getting $50 million a year. Okay, maybe you should volunteer to be there because it's not about you at that point. It's about them. All these new guys. Go there and make them comfortable. If you're not there, it makes it even harder. They do think there's this mystique. There's this wall that I have to earn my way through.
Right.
Rather than this guy's going to support me and do everything he can to help me. So this is all on Aaron Rodgers. If they don't make the playoffs this year, it is all on him for failing to put in the basic effort to give a crap about making a human connection with his new receivers.
Yeah, that's right. And this is real. And we saw this a few years ago in Brady's last year in New England, right? Young receivers that were intimidated, wanted to please. It's a huge part of the game, the human aspect. You know, the thing you always hear about players talking about, you know, camaraderie. This is a guy I'd, you know, be in a foxhole with, all of that. That's not only just, you know, getting to know the player on the field. It's getting to know the human off the field and realizing, wait, I can vouch for this human, this guy. You know, now I already was vouching for the professional, but now the human part of it, and that's when you come together as a team and have special relationships and then start to hit the next level of, like, you know, hey, I don't even have to signal to you. I can kind of give you a look and you know what I'm thinking. And that they're not there. That, you know, this conversation I think came up a little bit because of what happened at the end of the game the other night. He gave a really sly signal, right? He wanted to throw that last touchdown pass to Christian Watson. I think they were trying to extend that record of touchdowns in games. And, you know, Green Bay, they like to be cheap and throw 1- and 2-yard touchdown passes to pad Rodgers' stats anyways. But yeah, those are the little
Zing.
things. You know, hey, well, those are the little things that you do there, and you know, I think that those young guys are still in the process of getting comfortable and realizing and reacting to the nuances of what Rodgers does and how he approaches the game.
You know, people trying to figure out what's wrong with the Buccaneers this year. It could be that intense personal connection that Brady was able to establish and maintain with his teammates 2020 and 2021. It's been harder this year because he's got a lot of shit going on, as he said earlier this year, right? And at a certain point, when he separates himself from the team, he leaves for 11 days during training camp, and they act like it's no big deal. To the guys in the locker room, it's a big deal because he's not there. That's when you're making your bonds. That's when this unique group of individuals, because every year is different for an NFL team. Yes, there's carryover, but that collection of individuals is one time only this year, and it always changes at the fringes as the year goes on, but it's one time only. And I think that made it harder this year for the Buccaneers, and that feels like is what's missing from this team, that sense that they are connected as human beings. And you can't force it, but you can nudge it in that direction. And if you're not available, if you're not present, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is the sense of camaraderie and togetherness, it has to happen naturally, but you have to have everyone interested in making it happen before it can happen.
That's right.
You can make it not happen deliberately. You can't make it happen deliberately, but you have to be there and be together and be working together and feel like you are rowing the same boat in the same direction and sweating the same sweat and bleeding the same blood. That's how you lay the foundation for everyone to be bound together, and then that's when the magic happens. That's what I believe, but I may be wrong. I don't know. I got a feeling I'm more right than wrong.
No, you're more right than wrong. You are 100%. OTAs and training camp, that's where you lay down the tracks for all of that. You know, to your point, it's the moments of like, hey, it's in the locker room and we got a little free time, but yeah, we can't have so much free time. We can all leave the locker room and go somewhere. and guys start joking around or doing silly stuff or, telling a stupid story to the locker room. And that's where, the relationships and the bonds happen during training camp, during those little dull moments. Or, hey, we've had OTAs for the last 2 or 3 days. On the last day after practice, let's go, let's all go get a meal and drink a few beers and get together and hang out. That's a real aspect of football. It is the sport's too hard to keep it corporate and business-like all the time. And the crazy thing with Rodgers that I always think about is just like he knows how important this is. That's where he talks about it all the time. When I got my friend back in the building, Randall Cobb, and the camaraderie part. Well, yeah, okay. Well, these young guys need it too. And I think that kind of got lost in translation with him maybe a little this offseason. And hopefully he'll come back and get another crack with these guys, because I do think there's, like we talked about yesterday, some potential for them to be scary next year if Rodgers does come back and play in 23.
It is amazing to me to think that he had resistance to something that he knows the value of. Like, he's almost like me, like, I'm old enough. I've got my friends. I don't need any more friends at this point. That's kind of the attitude that he had. It doesn't work on a football team. You've got to befriend your teammates, given the nature of what you do, given the importance of having that unspoken communication on the football field, and understanding what both sides of the equation like, what they like to do, how they do it, who they are, what they are. Remember, Juju Smith-Schuster earlier this year was talking about how they bonded in Kansas City playing Call of Duty, learning more about each other and who they are and what they like and how they operate and how they think. I mean, I just feel like Aaron Rodgers got to a point where he's not interested in getting to know any of these new players, hanging around any of these players, doing any of the things necessary to build those connections, which tells me, for as smart as he may think he is lacking in emotional intelligence. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.